Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the part 3 of Introduction to Python. Oh, that looks so weird. See, I'm not used to, no, okay, I'm used to bubble. Okay, cool, there we go. But good morning, everyone. Welcome to part 3. Well, I guess good evening, good morning, wherever you are. It's pretty bright and early here in EST time, but welcome to part 3 of Introduction to Python, where we're going to be doing some of our finalization of some stuff we learned and then putting it all together to make a simple program. And actually, I just realized, I know some of you did ask me, is this all the Python we're going to be doing? And I realized that there's actually another Python-based track that is also being run that is starting. Let me double check. Let's see. I think that is starting. Like, there's actually a lot of Python-based tracks. Like on day 5, right, September 8th, there is creating crypto data visualization app with Python part 1, XYZ. There is all sort of Python tracks actually this week. So yeah, so that's really fun stuff to get into, especially if you pick up some of this new Python stuff, right? And learn some of the actual syntax and some in-depth stuff about Python, and then taking it to one of the other tracks and using that to continue to build and expand, right? It gives you a really well pathed out way to like real experience with Python. But so real quick, if you have not been with us for the past 3 workshop, my name is Kev. I'm a coach here at Majorly Hacking. I use the he, him, his pronouns. I do a lot of different things, so I like to say feel free to talk to me about anything. And the funny thing, a funny extra fun fact is I haven't actually called my ISP, but it might be a browser issue. So I am on well, I used to stream on, which is a Chrome browser. So hopefully today we don't get any connectivity issues, but who knows? We'll see. With that being said, we went over a lot of the stuff. To really, the only slide we're going to be covering before we really just dive into an hour-ish of programming is functions, and make sure you understand what functions are. And actually, I do want to amend one thing after functions, which is how Python is structured. So essentially, after we're done here, we're going to start off with clean, fresh replet. I don't know what I was saying, replet, and then from there, we will build out a program that has both functions and control flow, if-else structure, if-else blocks and chains, loops, logic, and all that. So all the fun stuff. With that being said, let me hop over to our function slide. Okay, so I have no clue why see, that's all messed up, but you can still see, you can still see the key part and what that matters, right? So functions are essentially a block of code that allows you to compartmentize code, so you can reuse code later down the line, and they're generally defined by using the keyword def, right? So def is the keyword that's saying or defining a function. So what this says is define Celsius to Fahrenheit. That's the name of the function. So when you're calling it, what would you use? You would use the name of the function. You have your parameters right here. Those are essentially the variables with data you need to pass into the function for it to work. And then your return statement essentially is if you're trying to compute something in the function and get it back to the code prior, you want a return statement. And then the return value. That's really all a function looks like. We're going to look at this a bit more in depth and then explore it a bit more. But that is just the basic understanding of a function in Python. With that said, here is, I forgot. The internet worked. I got so excited. I forgot to say, make sure you check in. If you have not checked in, make sure you do that real quick. So I'm going to drop us into chat real quick. So if you have not checked in, please do check in. Checking in is pretty important. And yeah, we're going to switch over to Ask Me Anything in chat. And after you have checked in, if you haven't yet, please go ahead and make a Replit account. If you've been with us for the past couple of workshops, you should already have a Replit account. And once that is created, I will show you a few things. Actually, let me just get that ready. So I'm going to do this. Hello, welcome to the stream. Sorry, let me do this. Welcome. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. It's bright and early here. So yeah, okay, cool. So we're gonna switch over to our code view. So welcome to the code view. This is exactly where we left off yesterday, and we're gonna start improving on it by starting something new. So what we're actually gonna do is we're gonna bring up the open sidebar. So this is kind of like almost like your directory when you're working in a computer, right? I'm actually gonna the triple dot and click on show hidden files. The reason I want this is because I'm trying to modify the replit config, because I don't want to get rid of the main file. I'm just going to keep that. So I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to name it program.py. And then I'm going to go down to the replicate config file. Oops. Open it. And then I'm essentially just going to change this to program.py. Then we need to go here and change it to program.py, because now if I save this and run, instead of running main, our run button now runs program.py. That way we can keep both programs still alive. So now we're going to open the program. We're going to move console to the bottom like we always have. We're going to take away the sidebar, and voila, there we go. Now we're all ready. So, right, so we talked about a few things, and a real thing that I'm going to cover real quick is that in some programming languages, you have what is called syntax. It's a syntax. I never have syntax-based or syntax control languages, but what all that necessarily just means is that your syntax is how your program actually defines when the format of the code. So like when it starts, when it ends, right? So in, for example, a language like Java, and like C++, they're a delimited language, as in like you will determine when a line start and end by using a semicolon generally. But in Python, it is not. Python, it is a syntax-based language, which legitimately means like your tab and spaces matter. So generally, when you determine how many spaces are in a tab, you want to keep that consistent. So like normally we do either 4 or 2. So let's see. So this one, it does 1, 2. So this one does 2, which is perfectly fine. And with 2, here's what you would do. So let's start off with some of the stuff we talked about. We talked about how there are so many existing libraries in Python. So we can do something called importing. Importing is what allows us to use those existing libraries in Python, right? So actually import math, you actually really don't need to import math. Math is also one of the default Python libraries. You also talk about external libraries, right? Such as like matplotlib, numpy, pandas, and so on and so forth. Math is a built-in Python library, or you should import it so you can see how importing kind of works. Most of the time, most of the things in math you can also do already by default in Python. I think if I remember correctly, POW, it just means take some the power of, might be faster if you do it through math, just based off how it's implemented. Because remember, all these libraries and all these functionality, and then there's code in the background that has been implemented, that has been extracted from you, so you don't see it and you don't have to do it. And you're allowed to just use the tool, but the code still actually exists in the background. But yeah, so with that being said, we imported math. So we're going to start by first thing is defining functions, right? So we can really take a closer look at what function definition kind of looks like. Let's zoom in a tad more. So first thing, remember we talked about is you start with def. After you start with def means defining, you name the function, right? And function naming actually follows a similar naming scheme. So if you look at this, I'm going to bring this back up. You see how we do a snake case for the name of a function? We do the same thing it's the same thing we do for variable, but this time we do it for functions. So I'm going to go back in here. I'm going to do def. Let's make a simple calculator program because we already imported math. So I'm actually going to go here, go to rename. I'm going to call it calc. And then I'm going to go back down to the config file. I'm going to tell every time I hit run, I actually want you to run calc. And I'm going to go up here and say, I need you to run calc. Save that, X that out, go back up to the top, go to calc. Okay, cool. I'm going to move down to the bottom. Sorry, my Echo just said it, the answer me. I guess Amazon Alexa or something. But okay, so we're gonna start with a def. So we're gonna define, let's say, add. Right? This is really simple. It's really to practice our skill. We're gonna add maybe a bit of complexity as we go along. So first thing I'm going to define add. Remember, so this is the function name. Is if we want to take any variable, we do want to take var a and var b, and then we're going to do this. And then you finish every function with a colon, and then after that you go to the next line, and you see how it automatically indented in, right? That's saying that everything under indented once falls under this function. And the indentation again is really important because Python's a syntax-based language, which means how it can tell when it needs to do stuff is through indentation. So we're gonna do var a plus var b. Right, that gets us. Why is it yelling at me? Okay. Import block is unsorted or unformatted. Okay, I mean, I think you want to format it or something? Sure. Oh, actually, it's basically just saying I'm not using it, which is perfectly fine. I don't need to be using it. So I'm gonna actually, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do sum, because when you add them, you call it the sum. So I created a variable, I call it the sum. I took var1, I added to var2, and I set it to sum. And what we're gonna do is in return, right? So we talked about how if you want to get something out back from a function after you call it, you would need to return it. So what this actually looks like is it takes var1, takes var2, you does this adding, and then it returns sum. If you don't return, it's perfectly fine, right? So some function might modify like the list itself, or it might actually just print something, and that is perfectly fine. You don't always need to return, but if you're trying to take something that is done inside the function out to your other parts of the code, you will need to use return. And then we're gonna now do a main statement. Actually, I'm gonna put this away real quick so I have a bit more code. So this is not too bad. So in Python, like in other programming languages, we have something called if name is equal to underscore main underscore. Essentially, this isn't a Python. It is a Python code block. Did I do something wrong? No, I didn't. Okay, cool. So this isn't a Python. It is a Python code block, but it's different. So this is a unique code block. Whenever you do if underscore name underscore equals underscore main, what it's saying is if you're running this specific Python program, right? We talked about how, for example, I'm pointing from math. My math is actually just another Python program that is like called math.py. And because you have multiple Python files normally, so when you work with multiple files, sometimes you have to tell it, oh, some of this code I only want you to run when that is the main file that's running. So this tells it, so any code below this block is saying that you only run this code block if the main file I'm running is this file, right? So if I click run and I do Python calc.py, calc.py is the main file I'm running. So because of that, we will then run everything underneath this statement, which is saying if the name of the file is considered main, it's not like name, but it's like if name is like a variable, it's stored at local, like internally in the file, and when you run it, it'll check if, oh yeah, is this being imported, or if this is the file that's running. If this is the file that's running, and it is the main file that's running, it will then run the code underneath here, right? So if we want to call a function, you call a function by just typing add, and then you pass it two things, right? So it depends how we want to do this. When I say it depends how we want to do this, it's because we can just do add sum, and then add so like 1 and 2, right? And if I run this though, let's see, this is still running. You see, nothing happens. Why? Because we didn't do anything else, right? So what we might want to do is actually say print the addition of 1 and 2, which we should know the answer is 3. Yeah, see, we got 3. So now we can expand on this, and what we're going to do is, instead of just adding, what we're going to do is maybe we will do we're going to define a new function called run calc, and this will take nothing. And what this actually does is it'll print out. We're gonna start with maybe. Excuse me, very early. Welcome to Global Hack Week's calc program. I'm going to do another print f string. What actions would you like to do? I'm gonna do that. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna maybe. So what we're actually gonna do is we're gonna actually go up here. We're gonna define a list. So we also didn't get the chance to really talk about this yet, but we have something called global variables. And global variables are essentially they're just variables that can be used globally. And what we can do is we can make a list. We're gonna call it action list. And I'm going to set it for global variable. You use the same snake case naming scheme, except for use all capital letter. That's how you know something is supposed to be a global variable. It really should not be changed by your program. So we're going to do quote add. I'm going to do quote subtract. Or we're going to do sub. Actually, we'll leave subtract. I'm going to do divide. We're going to do multiply. We'll start with those, and what we're now going to do is we're going to actually show you how we can format with like a loop, right? So I can do for action in action list print f string, and what we're going to do is do it tab in, and we're actually going to do because I want to do some sort of numbering thing. I'm actually going to do for I. No, right? So remember what we talked about. So if you do all capital letters like this, this just means it's a constant. So what the idea of constant is, so you can have variables that are consistent throughout your program that never change. And that way to declare those, you just declare them one as a global variable. It's to declare a global variable, you just put that above all your program, right? So this means that this variable is accessible by any part of your program. We don't want to create global, well, you could technically, but you don't want to generally create global variables that are not constant. And the reason for that is then you can accidentally override stuff and you wouldn't know it. So constant essentially just when you do all capital even knows, right? So the official formatting for a constant is just all capitals. And what it tells the program is that this variable really shouldn't be changed while you're operating. It just stays consistent after you declare it. So in all honesty, you can probably declare constant as even tuples, right? Because tuples works essentially the same thing as list. It's just that it's unchangeable after it's been created, right? So I can technically declare my constant like this, but in reality, all you really gotta do is that if you're declaring a constant, you just do action. You just do all capital letters. Still in snake case, just all capital. So I'm gonna do for I in range, right? We talked about the range function. Range of this constant, but this doesn't work, right? Because I don't have an actual number for the range to be completed. I'm gonna first turn this off real quick. So we're gonna do for the range of the length of this. So I'm saying is I want to create the range and but only loop through the length of what's in my constant list, right? And then now what we're gonna do is the reason why I changed it to a for I or for index loop is I want to use it in my code, right? So like for I plus 1, then we're gonna do this, and then we're gonna do action list. Oops. Give me 1 second. Let me pop up real quick. Do. Also, so you see how like sometimes when we're hovering over certain objects, it tells you like hints about it, right? We're actually going to learn how to add this to our own function, right? So like this tells you action list, the tuple of literal, add, subtract, divide, and multiply, right? It just means goes and gets the item at the index I. But we're actually going to go up here. So to kind of add that to our own function that we declare. Oops. I'm waiting for my computer to load. Oh, you guys didn't remind me. We do need to get music going. I'm just kidding. Not your job. But let's get some music going. So some good background music. Someone should have said something. Background music is a pretty important part of this whole entire endeavor. All right, cool. So we're going to do sum is equal to var plus var. So what we're going to do is you can then do this. Adding a colon up here, and then you can tell what it is, right? So I want this to be an integer, and I want this to be an integer. So now if you like hover over add, if this works properly, it should tell you what it needs to be, right? It's saying var1 and var2 are integers, and that this is the function, right? And to return the integer, and it could be really explicit like that. We can make it really implicit. Whatever. No, it's really implicit. You can make it really explicit by just also doing this, which is saying doing this arrow is a type hint for what type it should be returning, right? So it should be taking a variable that's integer, a variable b that's integer, and then it does this, right? I actually think I can't remember if this is how you do it. I think you can also tell it could be one with other, right? So I can say this can actually be int or float. Because I don't know what number a person might give, right? Maybe it also returns int or float. So now if I hover over add, you can see it saying var1 is either int or a float, var2 is also int or a float, and once it's all done computing, it'll either give you back an int or give you back a float, which is really cool and really useful when you're programming really big programs and later need to figure out how to use the function you program. Or if someone else is coming along to help take over your program, it is also really useful because then they can know what they need to be successful. Okay, cool. Hope that all made sense. I'm gonna go back and start here, right? So now we kind of started doing we kind of start doing this, right? So we can take a look at what that kind of looks like. But if I run it, you'll see actually nothing happens, only because I didn't call it in here, right? So we're actually going to remove this. This is no longer the plan. And what is going to be the plan is we're going to just call run calc for now. And we can do the same thing on type hinting here, right? So we can say returns. This is really not necessary, but you could technically say this one doesn't return, so it shouldn't return it. Oh, I forgot to tell it the function. If you don't put your parentheses in, it wouldn't know it's a function, right? So now you can see it almost looks like a menu, right? Print a really nice menu out, and that's exactly what we want. And that what we want to do next is, okay, so now we have the menu printed. Maybe we need to collect some information from the user, right? Like what they want to do. So I'm going to do, so to collect information from the user on what they want to do, I'm going to do an input statement. So I'm going to do input, I'm going to do quotes, I'm going to do a new line so it generates extra space, like what option do you want to complete? And then, yeah, this is good. So this is good. And then let's see. So what we're also going to do is we need to save this. So we can say user select is equal to input, right? Oh, SE. Yes. Okay, cool. So I'm actually gonna do, yeah, a space there. So now if I run this, you can see it prints it out, and it's almost already started looking like a pretty nice program. So we can select the option, but unfortunately right now if you select the option it doesn't actually do anything, right? We're going to put out the rest of the functionality. We're going to take a 5-minute break here, everyone. I'm going to just go grab some water. I'll be right back. Please do, if you have some questions, please feel free to ask in the chat. Again, it'll be a really quick 5-minute break. We'll get back at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, essentially 5 minutes from now. We'll be right back after a short break. See you in a bit, guys. Okay, everyone, welcome back. Okay, let's get video going again, and let's get back to this. Okay, cool. Okay. Oh, I forgot. I always turn up the music a bit louder during break, so you couldn't hear me if I came right back. Okay, cool. So, right. So now we created a really simple user interface prompt thing, and now we actually need to do more of this prompt, right? So after this, one thing we need to do is essentially. We need to modify, we store the user input. So like what is left to do, right? It's like we need to do something with this user input, right? So now, let's see. So we define add, we define run calc. So maybe in here, we're gonna do if user underscore select -1, but what we're gonna do is actually we're gonna do action list. So what this does is it actually says, okay, I want you to do user select, right here, subtract by 1 from that, and then grab it from the action list. And then if that is equal to add I'm just gonna make this really easy. Actually, I'm not going to type it out. If we have this action list, I'm just going to do action list of 0. If this is the true, we want to call add. We're going to call arg1 is equal to input. Lowercase input. Well, what number do you want to add? Then we're going to do arg2 input. Number 2. Or we want to do second number, actually. We're going to do this second number, right? So what number do you want to add? We're going to do this, and then do first number, and then we're going to do this, and we're going to do space, and after that, we're going to do space, right? And then before this, we're actually going to do new lines. There we go. Okay, cool. So now we have that in place. I have you select define already. Oh, oops. So syntax really matters, right? I'm going to bring this up right now. It's yelling at me really because, like, oh, if you don't understand syntax manually stands for a while, it's because def, well, this function def, that means everything declared in here is really only seeable by def because it's indented by 1. But for the if statement, I forgot to indent it. That's why I just know what user select is, right? Because this user select is in the context of this this function we made. So you can see how the Python program, which is syntax based, I actually need to tab it in one. Now it's saying that, oh, this if statement is actually underneath this function, which now if I hover over, this should fix itself. Okay, which if I hover over here, it goes, okay. Oops, operator minus S for spring literal. Okay, there we go. So this is another issue we talked about during our not lecture, but during our past workshops is we need a typecast, right? So we know that this should always be integers. So we're gonna typecast this to int, or else we'll get a string. And if I wanted to make sure I can actually typecast this to int, what we can do is do a quick Google because I can't remember all the methods on my head. Is there's a method. So you go how to check if a string is int Python, right? You can always Google. Google, part of programming is knowing what you're looking for, but it's okay to Google things, you know. So like, okay, so it's is digit. This will tell me if the thing is a number or not. So what we will do is we can write a few things actually. So what we can do is we can write, I want to make this hard. I mean, easy. It's easy to read, but it's harder to write because there's just more line. But there is a harder to write that's easier. That is harder to read. I mean, that's easier to write, that's harder to read. Yes. But what we're going to do is we're going to break it up, right? So what we're going to actually do is we're going to do if input or user underscore select. Yeah, for sure. So welcome to our part 3 of intro into Python. I think, Tintin, you've been here for a few of our actual introduction to Python, and it's still the really simple basics, right? So we covered a lot of Python fundamentals in part 1 and part 2. And part 3, we're really putting that all together to build a program, right? So I'm actually maybe we'll do this. So you can, and we'll just shrink this a tad bit so you have a bit more code base to read. Yeah, so today we're just really utilizing what we have learned so far. So like we're importing math, we defined an actual constant, we went over how to declare a variable, how if you want to add type hinting to your variable, you're allowed to. We talked about how to you basically utilize everything we've talked about so far. So right now, all I'm writing is I already wrote a basic user interface, right, for a command line program that it acts like a calculator. So what we're doing now is adding the first ability to select what type of operation is happening. And then let's get some new music in here. I think everyone's getting tired of that. Let's try this one. And again, feel free to stop me anytime and ask me any questions. Let me get this new music going. Dun, 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 dun. So I'm gonna if select user dot is digit. See, there's a lot is, right? So is a num is alpha num. So is it alpha? Is it a letter or a number? Is alpha? Is it just a letter? Is it an ASCII value? Is it a decimal? Is it a digit? Is it identified? Is it lower? Is it numeric? And so on and so forth, right? So for me, I'm gonna do is digit, and it is a method. So you need to make sure you use your braces. I mean not braces. Your parentheses. So I'm gonna do this. So because this returns a true or false value, I can just use it as is. So I don't have to do a comparison or write an expression because it automatically will take that, check it out, return a true or false value. So now we have done this. If user select that is digit, what we're gonna do next is if it is, we're gonna do is not digit. So what we're gonna do if not user digit. Adding not essentially just flips the actual expression's conditional, right? So before it was saying, oh, if it is digit, go in. Now it's saying if it's not digit, go in. And if it's not digit, what we're gonna do is I'm trying to think if I want to introduce something new. I'm not. I'm just gonna do a return. I'm gonna return a string and say what you have entered actually what we're going to do is something even cooler, right? So instead of a if, we're going to change this to a while. So while means we're not doing a loop, but what we're going to do is saying if I get something that's not a digit, I'm just going to ask user again. So now I'm adding some sort of user validation, right? So if the user gets a ability to continue to ask, well, I'm going to continue to use the program until they put in the valid input. So now I'm going to do while not user is digit, user select equals input. What we're going to say, new line, we're going to do make sure you enter a number of valid selection. Well, actually, probably going to what I can do on complete. I'm going to do this, enter a number. I'm going to add that hint there. All right, so this should hopefully look better. I'm going to do this. Don't know. Oh, okay, that's fine. Okay, and then so we're going to do that. And then we're now going to do this. So while it's not digit, we keep asking. And then what we'll do is now we can just typecast it in here. Because we asked for while it's not digit, so now we're going to say convert that to int. Subtract. Now if we run this, you can see enter a number. They want to complete, so I'm going to say 1. Is what number do you want to add, right? First number, we're going to say maybe 3, 4. Okay, it's double because I actually, why is it double? Oh, because I print as a new line. I forgot. Oops. So I'm going to take that back. So we're just going to have number. number one, number two, and what we're going to actually do is write the rest of this. So we talk about else structure, so we're going to do else, and we're going to do action list. And what we're going to do is the same thing, int. So this part now is actually, so what we're going to do is we're just going to copy this. We're going to do this, and then what we're going to do is pass. Pass allows you to, as your programmer, if you want to continue to run your program without issue, you can add the word pass in. What that means is it'll temporarily skip the need to have that, make sure that is filled out. So we're going to change this. We're going to actually copy this. Actually, we're going to copy the whole pass as well. So we're going to generate a few one, right? So that is for add. We have add already. We now have subtract. After subtract, we need a multiplication and a division. So now we're going to do a 1, 2, 3. So to show that this works, I'm actually going to just print, and we're going to print the word sub, and then we're going to print the word give. I'm going to print the word mult. Now, if I run this, we can see that now if I enter 2, it works. It just says sub, because we haven't created the rest of the functionality. But now you can see we have like a pretty simple command line interface, right? And if you're really into, let's say, command line games, that's what they're called. I think there's a terminology for it, right? So like in olden days, most games were just command line only, or I think it's text-based games or something like that, right? I can't remember what they're called. But you can totally make a program in Python, right? That is like a text-based game. It lacks all the graphic flair and stuff, but right, if you do it right, it could be a really nice graphical game. Not graphical, but like I think they're just like text-based game. I forgot what they're called, but yeah, it's a pretty cool thing to actually be able to do, right? You can build in all sort of classes and structure. We aren't talking about object-oriented programming, but you should look into that if you want to continue. Maybe in the future we'll do like a fourth part. We're looking at object-oriented programming within Python, which you can do. You can declare classes, and actually remember we kind of saw that like each of our actual data type are actually just classes, right? You saw how like when we printed out their type, it says class integers. So you can define classes, which are essentially just groups of objects that share similar functionality and similar capabilities. But with that being said, now we can program the rest of this, right? So now what I'm going to do is program the rest of this. So I need to create a sub function, right? So let's do a def sub. So and actually for all this, you can really use the base. I'm just going to release this as a base. Hey, don't be ever. It's always okay to copy and paste. The reason we use this as a base is only because you know, we have because this is a really simple program, and all of them takes 2 numbers. Normally, you're gonna have to write each of these individually, but they all kind of work the same. So that's perfectly fine, right? So instead of sum, I'm gonna change this to I forgot what two subtraction should give you. It doesn't give you a sum. I just don't remember what it gives you. So what I'm gonna do is actually I'm gonna just call x. I'm gonna call answer and s, and I'm just gonna return answer. I forgot what subtraction you would call that. A and s, and what we're going to do is we're just going to subtract value 1 from value 2. And then this one we'll just divide value 1 from value 2. This one we're just going to multiply from value 1 to value 2. And I forgot what you get. I heard what you get here either. It's just going to be called answer because I don't remember. There's a term for this. It's too early for this stuff. And this one we do know because this is the product. So we can do product. Yeah, cool. Okay, cool. So we basically just coded all 3 of our functionality, all 4 of our functionality right in. Now, what we can do is kind of just really similar to the thing here. Get 2 arguments because we know that each of them takes 2 arguments. So I'm not gonna remove the pass yet. I'm gonna move the pass after I'm done. Actually, I just asked to remove the pass. It's fine too. I didn't. Oh, okay. I just got moved. Okay, cool. So we're gonna put this back. Put this back where it belongs, and then also do the same thing here. It's gonna yell at me because it's saying, oh, it's the same code. Yeah, I know it's the same code, but because we're gonna modify it now. So, what number do you want to? This is add, or this one want to be subtract, right? Subtract first number, we're going to actually change this to number being subtracted from. And then we can do second number be number. So you have the thing you're subtracting from, you have the thing you're subtracting with. Number subtracting with. Okay. And then we're going to move on to the next one, which is division, which is divide. And we're going to change this to I should remember this. So number dividing from. I'm just number subtracting from. Excuse me, sorry, I had to sneeze. I don't know that I might pick that one up. Hope it didn't. So I didn't blow out your ears. But number dividing from and number dividing with. And then we're going to have multiplication, which is just the multiply. First number and second number, right? That's all we need for that. We can now remove the pass arguments because this is no longer needed. But in its place, what we do need is to call the rest of the action, right? So for add, we did argument. Actually, we didn't even do that yet. So we need to actually run count. So after this, after you get the argument, you need to call what you created, which is add. So you call add and pass it argument 1 and argument 2. I'm going to do the same exact thing for each of these, except for replacing it with what they're supposed to be, right? So for this one, and this is subtract, so we're going to change it to sub, which is the name of the function. And then we can add some spaces here if it helps you better see these blocks of code. So I'm going to add another space, and I'm going to paste in here, and I'm going to get rid of the extra tabs, because tabs matter, or we'll make this one be div. And this, I think the last one's small. Finish the top, double check, right? So yeah, we're going to call them small. So we're going to do here, and then we're going to just do back, and then we're going to just do empty. So if I run this should, same thing, number, arguments, need to typecast it. We're going to, for this one, you already kind of saw how you would typecast, so I'm just going to typecast them. Actually, it's going to be easier to just typecast them here. So you might want to build an extra additional logic, like always typecast them with a flow. I'm just trying to speed this up a tad bit because you can always fine tune a lot of this stuff. This is just what we're kind of working with for right now. So I'm gonna just go ahead and replace all this in, just so you can see that the basic idea of how this program all comes together, right? So now I can do this. I can do this. I'm going to move all these extra spaces. And now if I run, hopefully it doesn't throw me an error. It does, because something is wrong. Why is that wrong? Invalid syntax on line 40. Out if action list int user -1 is equal to action list. What is wrong with the syntax? Let's see. This is tabbed in properly. That's out on the same line as the if statement. Is it the sub? It is. Okay, so you see, I forgot one of these, so it broke the rest of that. I thought again. Okay, I'm missing a parenthesis. Right, this next language, which means every syntax matters. So let's remove this, and hopefully now it should run. Give me 1 second. Okay, cool. So you saw that the program ran fine this time. Hold on. So my Alexa just all went off again, but that's okay. I managed to pause it in time, so you can see now we have this, right? So now I can select, let's say 1. Oh, 12 is out of the range, so that's fine. We can build an additional check for that, but generally, if you're writing for a regular user, you just need to build in a lot of checks for things that you think most common user would do, and it's just a general error, just make them re-enter stuff. But look, so I'm gonna do 1, so I can do number 1, so I can do 7 and 6. Oh, nothing happened. Why? Because we don't have any printing things, right? So what we actually want to do is instead of returning, because we don't really care, unless we're allowing them to chain these up, we're just gonna try to print. So we're gonna change our returns to print. Now, you're gonna yell that because it says you're gonna return something, but what we're gonna return is we're still gonna return something, 0. And what this all will just mean is it's almost like an error code, right? It's just saying that if I get 0, if I wanted to like check to make sure my program ran fine, I can just say, oh, did I get a 0 as a return? If I did, the program ran fine. If it didn't, do something else. But I'm just gonna leave it as return 0 for now. And now I'm gonna run it again, and then print some. Oh, oops. Okay. Yeah, it needs to be like that. Oopsie. I forgot to do that. And erase all of them with parentheses. Now if we run this, no problem. All right, yeah, okay, cool. So maybe I want to multiply actually. So let's say what's 3 times 3 is 9. Look at that. Isn't that so cool? And the word oyster, right? You can build this however else you want. But we're gonna take a pause for any questions that anyone has, because this is really the general idea. We did importing, we did constant, we did some function building, we did some variable defining, we did some validation checks, we did some loops, we did some all sort of stuff here. Does anyone have any questions about what we went over so far? No questions, chat? Any functionality you would like to see though, if we can add? Anything at all? All right, if you have a calculator, what's another feature or functionality you might want to be able to do, right? Let's think. So we have add, subtract, divide, multiply. Maybe we want to add something for like, I'm gonna think on this one. Let's see. Maybe we're gonna add something for something pretty useful, right? So maybe we'll add a GPA calculator. Alright, so this is a pretty simple idea. It follows the same structure, which is we're gonna just create a new. Actually, I'm trying to think of something that I can introduce something new with. We have introduced most of the concept actually. Yeah. Does anyone have any questions? Anything they'd like to see? It doesn't have to be about this program. It could be about Python in general, overall. Any questions, chat? Questions? No questions whatsoever? Maybe we need to build something harder next time. If no one has any questions, we will just chill for a second. Just relax. Okay. How about this? Who's still here with me in chat? Let's see, who's still awake? Anyone still awake? Can I interest anyone in like a Tetris game or tournament? As a quick breather, and then we'll come back. Maybe we'll add some things. I don't know. Everyone's like, no questions. Don't want to talk today. That's fine. Here's what we're going to do then. Since we've gotten pretty far here, we are going to see if we can add something to the program to advance it and make it even better. Let's see. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to build out this one last thing, and then if no one has any questions, we might call it a day. And I do welcome you to stay for the next session, which will be a pretty fun light session. But what we're going to do is see how we can like do one of these. Maybe we want to continue, right? After we did addition and subtraction, we want to do multiplication or so on and so forth. And maybe you're not done. So like a regular calculator, how you could add like continue adding, continue dividing, and so on and so forth. And what we will do is now what we need to do is create, excuse me, sorry. I'm going to create a new variable we're gonna call it running answer is equal to 0. And what we're gonna do now is we're actually gonna bring back the return statements because they're useful again. We're gonna return product. We're gonna write print statements on top of that and all of our answers now. You'll see the reason why we're doing this in a second. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna return A and S. I'm gonna do this, A and S. Sorry. I'll return some. Okay, cool. I'm gonna move all this stuff. Okay, and now what we're gonna do is when we actually get the thing here, what we're gonna do is now we're going to enclose this whole entire thing after like what you want to do, what action you want to do. We're gonna enclose this in a while loop. Okay, it looks like we might be losing the internet a tad bit. I'm gonna hop off camera. You can still hear me, but everything's all good. And this way, if I sneeze, you'll see that either. In the while, there's a few ways of writing this. There's technically no a loop that is stoppable, but basically infinite until. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna do while true, right? This is one way of doing it. It's not the most optimal way sometimes, and sometimes if you're in a class, some of the stuff you're not allowed to use, they might restrict you because they want you to think and do things a specific way. So since our programming not in class is perfectly fine. And what we can do is at the end here, and we'll show you what we got at the beginning. So while true, print user input. What we're gonna do is user input if user select is equal to Q. And what we're going to do is break. And we're gonna do this twice because I broke this into 2 loops. I'm gonna do this twice. I'm gonna back out. Let me catch this in. Okay, essentially what we just did is we made it so this can run more than once. So for example, I can do add 1, and then it will ask me again. It'll quit the program. So there we go. So now we're gonna come down here to oops. We're gonna do thank you. Cow top, and we're going to do running answer, right? And we want a running answer. If that is the case, what we want to do is actually we want to do running answer equals that, right? So what this one does, it will compute what add is, and it'll add it to the running answer. It's the same thing here, same thing here, same thing here. And this will allow you to essentially chain multiple operations together. Only issue is we need to build in a bit more for it to fully be functional. But this is pretty good already. So now what we can do is run calc. I can do each thing and actually keep track of like a running answer. Actually, here I have a list. We actually want to do that. We'll do running answer. We'll do what we're actually gonna do is I lied. I don't like what I just did. What I'm gonna actually do is running answer just be the number of time we have ran this, so we're gonna just plus equal 1. We're gonna change this to from running answer to running count. So this way allows us to keep track of how much times we have ran everything, continue to running count, and then I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to start adding it to every one of these, right? So every time we actually perform the action, we'll keep a counter of how many times we ran it. We're going to do the thing for using global hackweek calendar. We're going to do /n. You have used, we don't want this. We do this. You have used it a total of running times. Right. Okay. Then what we're actually going to also do is we're going to build in that printing, right? So we can just print after the statement because we know what is stored, right? So actually we're going to change this to, we're going to print another thing called answer is equal to 0. And what we're going to do is each time we're creating outside the loop so it has a more reach and range. So what we're going to do is use select break. Okay, cool. So from here on, we're going to do answer is equal to whatever this returns. I'm going to do this, and then we're just going to go down to each one of these, do this, go down to this one, do this, and then go back up to this one, do this. Okay, cool. So now what we can do is we can just print out here. We can do print string. The answer you would get is, and we'll do this, and we'll do A and S. Okay, now we're going to run this. So now you will see, if I do add 1, 1, the answer you get is 2, right? And I can keep going. 2, subtract, right? So I can subtract 5, 3 from 5. The answer you get is 2. The 2 confused me for a second. But yeah, you can see that overall, this now is a fully functional program. The second you do quit, you get is, thank you for using the global hackweek calculator. You have used a total of 2 times. But yeah, I think this is already pretty cool, especially for a beginner program. You got to use a lot of things you learned through our workshop. Yeah, any questions from chat? We're going to go back to the question stage because I'm out of ideas if I were not to make this super hard. Anything you guys would like to see added to the program, or if there's any question I can address for you guys? If not, we might call it early for this day's workshop because we got through everything we wanted to. We learned how to do a lot of cool new things. We wanted a quick review of everything though. So we learned how to import an external library. This could be from Python or actually external, like matplotlib, numpy, and so on and so forth. We learned how to create a constant. We learned how to define a function, as well as we learned how to define type hinting in functions. We learned how to write loops, conditional blocks, working together, use break statements, use pass statements, and much more, right? And we learned how if name equals main works. I'm going to add a spaces for better visibility, better reading. We wrote a really simple calculator program. And yeah, all the fun stuff for today. So with that being said, I do want to hop on back on camera and say this, which is make sure to stick around and you can get some relaxation in with No Light mini event starting at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is in approximately 2.5 hours from now. So go ahead and go take a break, enjoy your morning, afternoon, evening, and then come back and play some No Light. With that being said, after No Light, we also have a Day in Global Hack Week happening where we break down what's happening today for Global Hack Week, all the fun event, all the fun activities. So make sure to shove to that so you know everything that is going on. With that being said, I hope everyone have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care. If you have any questions, please do feel free to ask. Have a nice day, everyone. Take care. Make sure to get some rest.